Recently, I purchased a Trek carbon frame bicycle to replace my older steel frame Guerciotti that had Campagnolo gear on it. And I decided to upgrade the Trek to also run Campagnolo components throughout, which means the drivetrain, the brakes, the levers. And there was a few lessons that I learned along the way in working with the carbon frame versus a steel frame and applying the Campagnolo components to the carbon frame. And the first one that I learned was on the old steel bikes, you know, the park clamps like this where you kind of cam over and tighten, you know, onto the steel frame never hurt the steel. You could put it onto the top tube or down tube, but that's not something you want to do with the newer carbon frames. Now you can apply this type of clamp if you're a little bit careful, maybe into the seat post area here, but certainly not on these the non-round structures here, the carbon structures, especially using the cam part of it. I use it sometimes gingerly to kind of hold it, but I only use the crank. When you use the cam, it actually overdrives and tightens and then actually loosens back up. And you can damage the carbon tubes rather easily with this type of clamping mechanism. So that was the first lesson I learned. The second one was a lot of the carbon frames, it's a lot thicker, and you're going to need to get a variety of the brake mounting bolts. The nuts here come in a variety of lengths to kind of time out exactly the perfect length here that you're going to need to get through the carbon frame. The last piece on the brakes there for the Campy stuff is they use these star washers, and in the star washers you don't really want that star digging into your carbon the way you used to have it dig into the steel. So what I did there is I just simply filed down the back side, but I did leave the rough jagged edges to go towards the brake caliper itself. The next thing that I learned about the Campy, the newer Campy 11-speed stuff, is that in 2014, switching to 2015, they actually changed their 11-speed componentry. And that means that the stuff from maybe 2010 to 2011 to 2014 is all compatible with each other. But you can't interchange any of the components that have now been made in 2015 for your drivetrain. That includes your shift levers, your chain, and the derailleurs. You have to go all either the newer stuff or all the older stuff. One of the other pieces that I learned is the stainless steel cable. If you actually get your soldering station hot enough, you can actually still solder, like in the old days, solder the cable. But it takes you know, a couple tests maybe with some different flux and quite a bit of heat, maybe 800–900 degrees, and I was successfully able to terminate, you know, where I would cut the cables with a nice soldered end. The next lesson that I learned along this was that the torque specifications for a lot of the carbon gear are much lower than the torque specifications for the old steel components. And you can find a variety of places where you can find this information online. And what I did then is I built a chart that told me what I needed to do for the Trek components and what I needed to do for the Campagnolo components. And that became quite useful when I went to do the final assembly here, is to have all that information lined up. Two last things, kind of smaller things. I really wanted to use the Cinelli cork wrap, but you know, it tends to slide around a lot and there's a lot of complaints about it. So what I did is I found a guy that had successfully used hockey tape onto the handlebar first, and what I did additionally to that was added some of the spray adhesive that's used for trim, which is, you know, safe to apply to these types of surfaces, and then put the Cinelli cork wrap on top of that. Finally, just a small tip. I'm sure a lot of you guys have worked with a lot of different blue Loctites and whatnot. For this bicycle applications, again, the blue Loctite will attack a lot of different plastics, including ABS plastic, which is the most common. The Permatex stuff I'm not sure if it'll still attack the plastic the same. I'm quite sure it will. But what I like about it is it's thicker and it's easier to control than the thinner blue Loctite. So hopefully that'll help you save some time, and good luck with if you're going to try to take on one of these carbon fiber bike projects, and ride safe.